From the game studio behind the best-selling VR experiences of I Expect You to Die and Among Us VR comes Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire. In this single-player horror game, you are transformed into a vampire slayer who is on a mythic quest to destroy vampires before they wake. Tension builds as you rely on silence and precision to disarm all the traps in the various vampires' defenses. Unlike other VR horror games on the market, Silent Slayer relies on puzzle solving and precise use of tools to vanquish these monsters. You'll use a pry bar, clippers, and even a hook made from a finger bone to complete your mission. Naturally, stakes will also be provided. This jump scare VR experience is meant for the bravest of souls. Can you pass the test? Get Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire today on the MetaQuest store, or wishlist it on Steam. And for listeners of the Ruff Talk VR podcast, we have an exclusive discount code for 10% off by using code RUFFSLAYER-890-4FC. That's RUFFSLAYER-890-4FC. Just visit the link in our show notes and use the code RUFFSLAYER-890-4FC for 10% off Silent Slayer, Vault of the Vampire.
Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. Today we have returning again to the show,
A legend.
the founder, the owner of 3 Pound Games, Robin Moulder. You know, she's a legend in the industry at this point, but at this point too, she might be one of our most recurrent guests. I think this is her third appearance, which is a very rare category in Ruff Talk VR. I think there's only a handful of guests that have been on that much. So
Correct.
you're in a special category now, Robin. But we do have some new listeners to the show, even though you've been on before.
Well, we got new stuff to talk about.
I think it's been a little bit over a year since we've had you on last. So even though it's the third appearance, do you mind to introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners? Tell them who you are and what you do over at 3 Pound Games.
Absolutely happy to do so. And I'm thrilled to be back here with you guys as an early adopter on Ruff Talk. I've been on, this is my third time now, and that's exciting. I am expecting my award in the mail, possibly a certificate to go up on my wall. That would be pretty cool. I'm Robin Moulder, CEO of 3 Pound Games and 3 Pound XR. So it's 3 Pound Games. We're working on cutting edge games, like moving the industry forward with all the coolest, latest, greatest features in mixed reality, hand tracking, co-location, you name it. Whatever the cool thing is, somebody's pumping out. We're probably building a game for it right now. And on the other side, 3 Pound XR, we're providing our tools. So all those cool lessons learned that we've gotten from building all of this cutting edge work with game development, VR training, and working and partnering with other companies have all been stuffed into this magical platform called Grokit Core, which is a spatial computing and AI development platform designed to help people just get in there and start building apps quickly. You know, that next step, like after you put in the better building block in Unity, what do you do now? Like, how do you get going fast? This is how you do it. Stop recoding everything. Use things that we've already coded. Use building blocks that we've created, which we call Grow Block, to just get going really, really fast.
Well, that was very good for me to hear, mainly for the reason that now I get to go, well, that's another thing I was mispronouncing. I've been calling it Grocket the whole time. I don't know why I got that pronunciation. It's Grocket?
Yeah, so the trick there is Grocket, the game, is you pick things up intuitively to grok something. And that game, which is very complex under the covers, is very simple to play, which is what makes it magical. The hand tracking, the gestures, all of that, right? And when we were trying to come up with, like, what are we going to call the platform? We're putting everything, all the cool cutting edge stuff is going into Grocket, the game, which now makes it our playground, our experimentation place. It's our way to like expose everyone to the new cool technologies. Well, what do you call the platform? We were helping people grow applications. So what if we just flipped it around and called it Grokit?
That makes sense. Okay. And do you want to explain a little bit more what Grocket is? We hopped in right when it came out, and since then there's been even more little mini games that have been added. But, you know, I've talked about this with you before. I love this style of, silly little mini games in VR. So, do you want to tell our listeners a little bit what Grocket is as well?
Yes, Grocket is our answer to what was WarioWare, what was Mario Party at the Nintendo. There was all these fun mini games that people could just get in and play, and they didn't have to have a heavy burden to understand how to play them. People who just weren't very good at video games could play them. And we're all deep gamers over here. So we love the complex stuff, and we love building really complicated VR. That doesn't help technology adoption in this case. We need to get regular users into VR right now. So we started to look around at like, how could we make this more accessible for more people? And by building a longer ramp, building an adoption ramp for people to get in and learn things very quickly, very easy, that's a mini game. That's a mini game format all the way. It always is. It's social. It's fun. You get the monkey see, monkey do. People will mirror each other. So if you see somebody playing, one of the games and you don't quite get it, even though it's just one gesture, even if you don't get it, you're going to look over at somebody else playing it and go, oh, okay, I see. They're doing this. They're shooting it out of their hand like that. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mimic that. And now we're building confidence in the player, and they'll eventually come out of this with I know how to do mixed reality. I know how to do VR. Once they have that level of confidence, now they can start doing more complicated stuff. I think get started into some of those like cool deep games that, we all love and want to play too. We need to get them on that ramp. And it also provides just such a cool way for us to go and explore different technologies. When anything new comes out, we're like, we'll make it a Grocket level. Let's just see what we could do with this. Kind of like almost like, building a hackathon mentality inside of our company to be able to spin out levels like this and just do crazy stuff and see if it works. And then we could look at the metrics and analytics and go, yes, everyone loves this game. That's good. Maybe there should be a whole game of its own. So there's a lot of places we can go with Grocket overall, just from helping the ecosystem to helping us learn and enhance what we're doing and feed this information back into our core systems and libraries so other people can use some of these cool mechanics as well without spending hundreds of hours in documentation. And, it's a complex landscape that we're all living in right now. So we're looking for ways to make this more accessible for everybody in each category.
And how many games does Grocket have currently, mini game wise? Some of them are pretty silly too. So I'll ask you a little bit specifically about some of them too.
Maybe all. That's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to this, but there are quite a few now, and there's a wide variety of categories. From the gesture types are generally the categories, whether you're chomping things with like shark for arm, which by the way is kind of the first game that we ever tried to put out in 3 Pound. That was first initially a mobile game. And then we realized this needs to be first person. This doesn't work at all as a third person game, because it's what it feels like. So it's really working in mixed reality, of course, because you're running around chomping everything. They're shooting with the, blasting things out of your hands, whether it's snowballs or ice bolts, or, now with the new upcoming DLC for Cancer Blast, you're shooting white blood cells out of your hand. So there's a lot of different mechanics that are going on, a lot of different options for the gestures of how you interact with them. I want to say there's probably 16 games easily. Might be more, actually, because there's a bunch of different levels too. There's there's some easier levels for people where claws out, where you extend your hands and you have claws in your feet. You're actually a cat. Full disclosure, you are a cat. And there's a balloons level that you just don't want to break the water balloons. That's the thing, because you're a cat. No one likes that. But we also made like a simpler version that you're just batting at butterflies, and it's magical and simple. And again, it's to really get those people moving in VR and not being afraid of their space, not being afraid of being the person who's playing the game, because that's complex too. We're all so used to just going in and being like, oh, that's it. I'm an elven warrior and I go shoot things with my bow and arrow, or I've got a sword and I'm going to go stab all the monsters. And we all just jump straight into that character. We are that person. We are controlling that character. That's not what regular people do. regular people are just themselves, and they haven't quite made that leap yet to, shifting away from their own persona to controlling another character. And in mixed reality, you are the person, you are that character. So it's very easy for us to then flip the script and say, well, you're going to play dress up and you're going to have some fun with it. And it's short and simple, and get good at this, because now you can start doing more complex things. You can get more used to being in XR longer and longer. And, mixed reality is good for that too, because it reduces that head load and it makes you feel more free and open. So we're pretty excited about this technology overall as a way to get more people, involved in the XR ecosystem and expand this technology out to training and just general utility categories. There's so much more we can do with this technology, and it's just a matter of time before we have lightweight glasses that really work.
I love how you're taking what seems like a simple thing. I'm making a game of mini games, but it's really not. It's a series of mini games made up of the latest and greatest technology that's coming out.
Mixed reality, hand tracking.
And it's a technology you're willing to, obviously share with the Grokit side of things as well. It's like, these are the things that are proven and they work, but it should be mentioned. It is very fun.
Mm-hmm.
I think we laughed our ass off. So.
I think affordable too, right? What's the price of it again? We've owned it for so long, it slips my mind.
It's $14.99, and we're going to be adding some DLC packs coming up in the fall. So there'll be lots of options there for people to choose more of their own adventures. If they want to lean into that co-location stuff, that'll be a separate DLC, and especially important because a co-location arena means that you're going to be in the same space with all the people. You want to make sure that they understand that. And it's really cool, you guys. I really wish you could have made it to AW. I was so hoping there would be a last minute come on out, because, man, there's nothing like getting into mixed reality with other people and you're playing a game and you look across and they're wearing their avatars. Like,
yeah, well,
yeah, the AWE one stings a little. I appreciate you bringing that up.
We'll commit to that. We'll commit to it for next year. I think that's a must go. I mean, it's a conference dedicated to.
It looked amazing.
It's always a good time every year, it looks too. So I think we'll definitely have to next year. And we've done a little bit of co-location. We did it with Demio in our hotel room in Sweden. Yeah. That was awesome. But then we also played some spatial ops at the Resolution headquarters. And both of those experiences, it's like, man, if you have two people in the same room with headsets, which I get is a barrier of entry. So it's good that it's, specific mini games, not the whole game. But it's like, that is some of the most fun you can have in VR, in my opinion, or MR or whatever. It's just such a cool.
Yeah, it's definitely two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
You're seeing, you're clearly seeing your friend, but
gone.
Yeah. So you tease you tease some upcoming DLCs, and one of them you said the cancer awareness DLC. So yeah, what are these upcoming DLCs that have been announced so far?
So we announced at AWE the DLC for Cancer Awareness Month. It'll be out in September. It's in partnership with Children's Cancer Research Fund and the Big Dreams Tour, which is headed up by James Arrigo, who's an incredibly talented musician and performer and evangelist. I mean, incredible guy. And he works with the kids to help put together their creative vision, whatever it is, whether it's like a gaming initiative like this, or could be a music video, or it could be that they just want to do something really crazy. Like, I want to make an advertisement for something, it could be anything that they want to do. And he's constantly putting out these little pieces for them and helping them through creativity to just reduce the pain and all the struggle that they go through by being a cancer patient. I mean, obviously that's no fun at all. And you're not only you're dealing with all of the cancer treatment, but you're dealing with complete isolation. When you're locked away in this room and you can't play with other kids, you can't play with your family, you can't do anything like that. So he's constantly bringing kids together in mixed reality, virtual reality, all kinds of spaces, metaverse. And when I learned about this initiative, it was through Ready Player Golf, which is a charity event that's held every year for this initiative. And I was just blown away by the work that James is doing with Big Dreams Tour and Children's Cancer Research Fund. And I'm like, we got to get involved with this. What could we do here? Could we make a game level for Grocket together? And he was thrilled by this idea. It's like, yeah, the kids will so get into this that, they know how to come up with ideas. They've worked through the creative process and all these different things. And I can work with them on character design and music and voiceover, all the things. So that's what we've done. They gave us an environment design. They gave us character designs. They chose which mechanics from the game that they're really into and that would be appropriate for, shooting cancer and destroying cancer, which is really nice. And the characters are so cool. We had a tough time figuring out which character to put on the logo because, you don't want to promote the cancer guy, but at the same time, he was pretty cool looking. I think we ended up with the red blood cell because he was so cute. So that'll be one. That's one there, and that's going to be out again. It's during Children's Cancer Awareness, Pediatric Cancer Awareness Month, which is September. Be a big push there to get that out, and all the proceeds for this are going to go to the Children's Cancer Research Fund. Very excited about that. We're very excited to support this mission, and hope people are really going to like it and enjoy, especially like hearing the kids' work and seeing what the kids have done.
I'll definitely
have to check this one out.
I'll definitely buy it day one.
Yeah, it's for,
knowing 100% of it's for a great cause.
Yeah.
I love the idea that it's something that I think unless you're in that situation, you're not thinking about, but you are isolated and you're a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't think of a worse torture than being scared and alone.
So many of us that have played so much multiplayer VR, that sense of presence in multiplayer VR games. We're playing Dungeons.
It's real. You're there, man.
Yeah, we play Dungeons of Eternity together, and we're swinging stuff together. You might as well be in my living room. So I think that ability is huge and often not really thought about unless, like you said, you're actually in that situation.
No, I hope everyone jumps on this one.
So that's going to bring not only changes with red blood cells for, the bubbles or stuff like that. There's going to be new mini games with that DLC as well, it sounds.
Yes. So this will be that you're shooting the white blood cells, at them out of your hands. Like, destroying cancer together. Which, I've had some research scientists suggest that we should do a study about that, whether or not actually playing a game that visualizes you destroying potentially your own cancer, does that do anything for you? Does that actually help you? Because for sure, it has to help you kind of emotionally, that you feel like you're taking control and charge of your own issues, which is kind of fun to think about because, placebo effect is real, right?
I'm a believer in you kind of manifest your own world, as good and bad and ugly or as great as it might be, but it starts with what you believe and think. I believe people have that ability. I'm not saying I do, but I've just heard too many stories of, whether it be prayer or whether it be some other form of focal point. I've heard humor. So it'd be an awesome study to see someone actually do. But you're right. The placebo effect is real, and it's real for a reason, because some people do.
Right.
And if you can believe in it, then sure.
And, I'm sorry to jump ship a bit, but you have me fascinated with Grokit. You said it's like a platform for people to build off on their own. So do you want to explain a little bit more? Do they make their own mini games? Do they brand them? How does the Grokit platform work?
So Grokit Core is all of the ingredients that it takes to build gaming, right? As a separate thing from Grocket the game, although you could ultimately build Grocket the game with Grokit Core, because that's what we did, right? So you could do that. We have other core functional building blocks. It's anything that scripts, libraries, core systems, these components are gamified components, things like a count puzzle or that sort of thing. Anything you need, the door lock, the keys, all the things that you need to build games, those common core components are all built in there as Grow blocks. So you don't have to go even reconfigure those things. You would just drag in your art assets and you're good to go. And ultimately, it's all real code solutions that's built on top of Unity. So you would still have full control of everything that you're doing with a lot of ways to shortcut the development process and have the production pipeline process. That's another problem too. Is people come into this and they think they're just going to throw together a game. Now, it's not just that you got to learn coding. It's like you got to learn everything in the world. How do you build an entire world? Now I have to learn it all. I have to learn audio. I have to learn art. I have to learn production pipeline process. I have to learn how to optimize assets. These are all different jobs in a big company, let alone design, whether it be game design or instructional design, complex topic, both of them separately. And now you got to learn coding too. It's probably too much for most people. So if we can get to that point of where you're thinking more about components, you're thinking more about what the black boxes are that you need. I need a character that can walk. How does the character walk? Which movement system would you like to use? Okay, grab our movement system module, shove it in there, click and configure, try that out. Ooh, maybe this game would be better if we were flying. And in that moment, that would have taken you a lot of recoding. But with our systems, it's click, click, press run. Now you're flying. So everything has that modular approach about it of, well, you could try this out very quickly. You can get to your proof of concept quickly. And it's also real production code. So yeah, leave it in there. It's high quality. And if you get to that situation where, okay, this worked pretty good, but also I need something else that's really complicated over here. Okay, well, you can go write that. That's not a problem. You can extend any piece of code that you want. You can add in additional modules that you want to write. This is super important when you talk about things like VR training or any of these industry examples where you have somebody who wants to put everything behind the firewall. And they can't do that if it's the metaverse play. They can't do that if you're locked inside of a low-code solution that's a website configurator. Those things don't work. So by having this be here, you can take this package, put it in Unity, you can do whatever you want with it. And then you can deploy the final result wherever you need it to be deployed. So it could be the asset store, or it could just be an internal system where you're training people on how to do a very complex process that has intellectual property tied to it. And you don't want that outside the house, outside your company.
My mind just exploded.
Yeah.
I like to play with Unity sometimes. I'm by far from an expert. I mainly go into the Unity pathways, chip away at some tutorials when I can. I'm currently on the junior programmer course. I finished the first one, the Unity Essentials. I'm on junior programmer. Next will be the VR pathway. So Unity, I mean, there's so much user friendliness with it. It's great, but like you said, you really do need to learn coding with it, at least from what I'm seeing off the pathways. So for somebody that wants to play with Grokit, how much underlying knowledge of Unity and C# do you need to hop into it?
Oh yeah, you're right there. You're right at the perfect spot. The basic fundamentals are: do you know how to open up Unity? Do you know how to import packages? Do you know what an inspector is? Like some of the real basic stuff. Do you know how to drag and drop around? If somebody said open, go to the project, find the scene. Do you know how to do those things? So basic navigation skills, basic understanding of core concept. That's really about all you need. After that, it's all on you to go, what am I going to design? And really helpful for you to draw some building blocks up there and start connecting dots and just visualize what components you might need. So start thinking more big and modularly instead of worrying about drilling down into one thing. This is where people stop projects right here. It's like you get caught on one stupid thing and then you're spun out for 3 weeks. Kind of hard to keep up the excitement when you're stuck.
Yeah, there's a lot of potential roadblocks. And even now, if I go to play with a project without doing the pathways, the tutorials right now, it's like I don't really have the ability yet to configure animation scripts and stuff like that. That's probably my biggest weak spot. So it's like, oh, I want to make a game involving some slashing of the enemy. It's like I can make the enemy move, can make the enemy come at me. I'm not too good at configuring the assets of animations and stuff I grab from the store. So in Grokit, even that's set up, enemy or NPC animations and stuff like that.
We don't have a lot of NPC animations in there right now, but we do have his production pipeline process instructions. So I'm not sure if that one specifically is in there. Probably touches on it a bit. There's always going to be more options for these things. So there's the go buy an asset like an animation pack or a character pack. Go buy these from the asset store. Do something with them. You have to do some configurations. Always. There's never perfect, never just drops right in because, they don't know what you're going to do with your project for one, and they don't know what platform you're going to go with. So we've all seen asset packs in the asset store that say low poly. They're not. They're low poly compared, for PC, but they're not low poly for mobile friendly. So there's always work to be done there. And we talk about like animations and characters. You have to think about like, what are you going to do? You're going to integrate with Ready Player Me. Like we have a Ready Player Me integration there. We have AI module integration. So if there's you want your character to talk, do you want to be able to talk to the character and use AI and go back up and down to that? Do you want to be able to use command structures with like with AI, with meta with AI? Like we have these things built in. You could just boop, boop, boop. So animations is one of those ones where there's quite a few things out there. There's a lot of pre-built animations, Mixamo being one of them that we frequently have pulled into our project. You'll see a lot of Mixamo in Vault of Stars, where all those huge animations, it was a combination of a person doing mocap, like actual acting, combined with blended pieces of things that were pre-built animation. And because there are so many pre-built animations in the world, that means the next step with animations is, of course, it would be easier to replicate those with AI and be able to say, I want my character to do blah, 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 blah. And then that's what it will do. And I think I'm not 100% sure on animation. It's a little less of my wheelhouse right here. But there should be now AI that's doing these pieces of this.
Crazy. This platform sounds like there's so much potential for that person that's a solo developer who, fell in love with VR and just wants to start making projects. This sounds like, it's going to take away a lot of the roadblocks that somebody might hit. Man, do people know about this yet? I mean, this thing sounds like pretty freaking awesome. How long has Grokit been out, and have you seen people start to use it yet? I feel like people just don't know about it. This sounds pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah, we were in we were still in beta right now. So we actually just opened up the beta 2.0 cohort. We just onboarded the first person on Friday, and there's more people coming in this week. We haven't socialized it a ton yet, and mostly because we're buttoning everything up, making sure the documentation's accessible, and how are we onboarding you, and we're working through all those paths. So now that we're kind of at this point where we did a complete beta, it's time to get very serious about this next beta and get more users in, beat it up. So, please do come in and come along the journey here, because it's a great time to be involved with us. There's so many cool things, and to have that opportunity to have your voice heard of the types of things that you're playing and the things that you would like to do will help us pull in which features are the most important ones to do next.
Wow.
The possibilities are becoming endless at that point.
Yeah,
really, as it continues to grow, no pun intended. But
my brain's exploding right now.
Exactly.
Like, this is what I've needed, type
and
of
it's
deal.
growth on both sides. It's not just growth on one side. It's growth for the user that's going to pick these things. That's going to make their projects a little.
If it brings great games and new developers to the industry, then it's huge for the ecosystem as well too. It's a win-win for everyone, the consumer, the player.
Yeah.
And
my brain, that's it right there. I mean, this is my number one thing is, we got to grow this ecosystem, and how are we going to get there if everything is so hard? And I've done it myself. I've sat around like I must, have a million game ideas all the time, or app ideas. And you start to think about what's it going to take to build that. And immediately you're like, okay, I'm just going to put it on a list, because there's no point in starting this because it's too much work and we already have too many other projects going on. So now that we can accelerate that dramatically, it makes it a lot easier to be like, what, let's throw together a quick proof of concept. No big deal. It'll take a week,
I love it. Even just for making like
I like
vertical.
it from a business standpoint.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, from like a training standpoint, if you're a corporation or whatever, it makes even that process a lot easier.
Or even just making like vertical slices, just proof of concept of a game. Like maybe you will go do it even without the building blocks later, but at least you can put together something to show people like, dude, I got this idea. I'm going crazy. You know, I see the potential in it. I'm so excited for that. And
yeah, and that's how that's how a lot of games get funded, because they actually have something. They can prove that they can build it. They can prove that they have that they can fulfill in their vision. And why should you have to have all of these skills? It's not tenable. You know, if you're like, you should be able to pick and choose that you want to get deep into a skill like that. So like with me, and I do audio, and that's great. I can focus more on actually making quality audio and less about how am I going to implement that audio, because that takes a long time to hook everything up and figure out how everything's routed. And then you hit the, like with audio, for example, like Space Dragon problem. It's a bullet hell. You know what happens in bullet hells? Performance tanks. And one of those reasons would be that everything, not only do you have those particle effects going off constantly in your face, but also these objects, you also have the sound effects. So if those things are all still alive in the scene, you have a problem, because it's just going to keep stacking up and stacking up. Pretty soon all your RAM's going to tank, and that's it, game over, because the game won't run anymore. And I don't have to worry about that because everything's pooled. And I can be like, okay, well, no problem. I'll just shove it in here. The pool will take care of everything else.
Freaking cool.
Space Dragon was cool.
Yeah. I should have grabbed my mug for it. Yeah. I have a nice Space Dragon Unchained mug and t-shirt. I should have.
I remember that was some of the best flying.
Yeah.
Yeah. That we had done it.
Dude, dragon arms, dragon hands. That's freaking, that's enough to sell me enough bullet hell.
I know, right?
Dragon arms. I mean, come on. In space.
That's what we brought that back in Grocket, because how satisfying is that now that you have the dragons on your arm and that you just open your hands to shoot?
Mm-hmm.
Makes it even easier.
I love how much you all lean on hand tracking, like Stratus over here said at the start, just new technologies in general, AI, interactions with NPCs and stuff like that you're talking about in, the documentation of Grokit. You all are always on the cutting edge of stuff, but part of that is how much you're attending stuff at AWE, and we see you everywhere. We follow you on social media, but also on like LinkedIn and stuff like that. You're always on panels, on talks, at conferences, just doing a little bit of everything.
I'm blown away at the time management.
It's incredible.
Yeah. It's like there's always...
there's not a lot of sleep going on over here.
So you want to tell us a little bit what you've been up to on that side of things the last year or so?
Yeah, I mean, it has been just an absolutely amazing 2024. And to lead on the Space Dragon, and we'll go with it. It is the year of the dragon, after all. So we kind of assumed, and talk about getting your mental state set. That's what we said in 2023. It's going to be our year 2024, because it's the year of the dragon. There's no other way this can go down. And it really has lived up. And, in addition to just all the cool stuff that I do with Akbar Women, that we were always getting women out there on stage, and we're always very busy making sure people are speaking out there. And we get into 2024, we put out another release, Space Dragon. Space Dragon has a mixed reality update, so you can fly through your living room. And I think we might have released that in 2023, but for sure there's been some more updates since then. Grocket continues to evolve. We've been putting out lots of different updates. There's been more awards with Meta for support for Grocket the game. They absolutely love it. And then we went to New York. Oh, wait, hang on. I missed some stuff. Well, there's a lot going on. We went down to Florida for a hackathon, not one we were in, but one where we were providing Grokit core. And this is actually the first time that we had tried out that situation. Like, what's it like for us to take our tools and give it to people in a hackathon? And it was for the IVRA, which is Bob Fine's organization to advance XR in medical. Incredible organization, so much support for this. I've spoken at his conferences before. Incredible organizer, absolutely moving the needle across the board in the ecosystem in this space in medical and hospital work. The kids came together. There were students that were more developer focused, and then there were students, and some of them were just graduated, so they actually were doctors, even though they looked very young. I put that in air quotes because you wouldn't know that because they look so young, right? Or they're just close. They're almost about ready to get their degree. So they're all very excited about this space. And he paired up different people like this. You've got the technical capabilities, and you've got the actual background in medical knowledge. So you guys get together and build something. We provided our tools into the spaces. So all of the ones that used Unity used our tools. And the top 2 were winners that used our tools. And that was incredible to watch this because they got so much done. This one project, they're like demoing the work, and it was like, it just kept going on and on and on. And then you go do this, and then you go do this. You're like, wow, you guys really killed it in 3 days. So that was kind of kicking off the February. And then I went back for the IFR conference again and got to write that up for AWE. That was super cool. A nice little fun surprise there. And then we fast forwarded up to New York in, is that March, April, May, something, maybe it was April, I think, something like that. We got invited to the Meta Hackathon in New York for the Presence platform. And we had planned to do Co-Location Arena as our hackathon project because it's so new. And although there are co-location features in some things, like your Demio, like getting deep into co-location is a little more complex. And that's what we wanted to take the time on. And we're together in one place, makes it a little easier to actually test and try out these features. But unfortunately, a whole day goes by and there were several teams that wanted to do co-location and nothing was working. It was super strange. And it was one of these just silly configuration things. Nobody at Meta could figure it out. And it was a lot of pressure when you have like 25 devs staring at you like, what's going on with this stuff? So they were like, you know what, guys, have you considered switching project? And we're like, we could do that. So we had no worries in this because we also have other areas of interest too, like in the utility category. We all know that this is going to be a huge category that's going to take off for XR. It isn't all just about gaming. It's also about functional, useful things that we can all use in real life. And think about, Star Trek. It's always the dream is that I can just put on my goggles and go, how do I learn how to do something? Okay, I got this. I can fix it, or you're going to just tell me how to do it. I'm just going to do it. So I don't have to remember how to fix the washer or, just silly stuff. There's just so many silly things in your house that are hard to keep up with and hard to constantly remember how to do everything. What's the exact right process for getting something started or fixing something that's wrong in your house? And what happens when people come to take care of your pet? And you have to constantly keep telling them the same stuff over and over again. These things are really a drag for you. And it kind of makes getting on vacation stressful. So that's how we started to get into this little workflow of like, how can we reduce some of that head load on people for their own house management? And we came up with Home Care Helper as a mixed reality. This is contextual help. You could get help, you could provide the help, so you could get in the headset and you could lay down the instructional design of things for something in your house. First easy examples would be that sort of thing. Like somebody needs to take care of your house while you're away on vacation. Instead of them calling you up 6 times, oh, I lost the paper of instructions that you wrote me, they could just put the headset on and go, oh, right, that's where the medicine is for the dog. It's up there, right? Okay, I forgot he said you had to put that away because the dog will chew on it or whatever those things are that happen all the time. And you could just cut down on your stress because you would know that people know what to do and they know how to get those instructions again without calling you up and bothering you while you're on the beach. So that kind of thing of what could we do with spatial anchors? What can we do with mixed reality? How can we make that interesting? How can we leverage AI? Because you could do things like, oh, I'm also supposed to come over and take care of Uncle Joe who just needs his lunch. and you need to remind him to go take his nap. Okay, let me go in, talk to him. Here's some phrases that are good to use, and then do the things that you're supposed to do in the house for that person. So there's a lot of, you can think about like a million different use cases for this type of technology where you're providing instructions, leaving it behind for someone else. And then we could very easily take those instructions and turn those into a work list and go up to a cloud service and then go back down to a mobile app. And they say, hey, by the way, they actually did those things. So there's a lot of places we can go with this. We hope to extend this project out more in the future. We're looking at the next present platform hackathon coming up. We'll probably be submitting this project for that to give you a real chance to dig into that one a little bit more. So that was like maybe April or May. It was just been this crazy year. And then it was ADV started sneaking up on us. And we submitted for we were submitted for Best Indie Creator, Best Gamer Toy. We entered the Pitch Fest competition and couldn't believe it when all of these things came true. So we were finalists for the pitch competition for Grokit Core. We were nominated for Best Toy, although we didn't win. Nominations still pretty good.
Mhm.
And then we won the Augie for the Best Indie Creator. Yeah, it like, how can we top this year, right? Like, it's July. It's a problem.
I 100% feel that. We've had quite the year
24 has
ourselves.
been very unique, and there's no rhyme or reason for it.
Yeah, and you know what? 2024, this is supposed to be, isn't summer like the slow season of VR? And now there's Gamescom next month with this VR gaming showcase, and looks like quite the spot for VR. You going to be at Gamescom this year?
No, I thought about that one, but there's just no time. I'm trying to plan the fall right now. Actually, there's a lot of Europe conferences I want to get back to. Stereopsia it was so much fun last year. You guys, it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. Like, the people are so cool, and the location's amazing, and their award ceremony is in this theater, really old. And you just feel so magical when you're sitting in there. It seems like you're in a movie. And like, yeah, this is where awards should be. Absolutely. That's super cool. Love it.
Well, congrats to you all. It's been quite the year. It sounds
I love seeing them win the Augie.
yeah,
That was pretty cool.
very well deserved. Like
Yeah,
I said,
dude. Look at the amount of. There's no one dimension here. It's like every direction that, from assets to actually continually updating your original game to Grocket and adding to that and staying on top of the new technology and XR women and panel. It's like, geez Louise.
if I'm not crazy, which I might be crazy even if I'm accurate here, I think one of the first couple times we talked to you, either the first or the second, you mentioned that 3 Pound Games does like contract work for company, like making applications for enterprise reasons. Is that correct?
Yeah. And that's how we got to Grokit Core is the path. Most game developers do this. They don't all talk about this, right? It's like, how do you pay for your gaming addiction? Okay. You got to do some work for a living, right? And it's very rewarding work because you're helping somebody else's dreams come true, or you're solving an incredible critical need for some company. If they're coming to you to ask you to build an application, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's quite an honor. It's not like you're trusting me with your business to solve your problem. How cool is that? So we love doing that. It's fascinating work. It's great to go in there and just learn a whole new business domain and then build an app around it. Like, that's so great, but it doesn't scale. So how can you do that more? How can you repeat that process with the same number of people? Because otherwise you have to keep expanding the number of people that work for the company. And you guys have seen this path before. There's a ramp to that of like, building the company, adding more people. And now you add more people, and now you have to find more work, and now you have to struggle to keep up with all the things. And everything starts to become a house of cards at some point, where it's like, so-and-so got in a car accident or left the company. Now you've got problems, right? So that doesn't feel good to me, because I don't want to create that stress on everybody where we constantly have to be grinding, doing other people's work, even though it's incredibly rewarding and we love doing it. But we got to balance it with our mission and things that we're trying to get done. So the only way through that was to start getting more into this accelerator model, which is where we evolved next. And we partnered with XR Workout and we accelerated them. We've done this with other companies as well. We partnered with TMC, where we built medical applications there. So by doing that model, we were able to get more applications out and send them on their way to keep fulfilling their mission. So we started partnering with subject matter experts in that way, but also, you know what? That also doesn't scale. So we can do that for a couple of them, and we have to pick and choose who we really want to work with and who's the best fit for us to accelerate and the best bets for us to accelerate. But what about everybody else? What about everybody else that can't get our attention, or they don't have enough money to get involved in a bigger project like that? How can we get them on the path and get them moving? And then that's what Grokit Core does. By providing the tools and our documentation, our production pipeline process, now you can get going on that, and you'll still have access to ask us questions and whatnot. And and if you get to this point where you're like really stuck, sure, you could hire us to help you out with little pieces of that. Absolutely. But for the most part, we want people to take ownership in their own projects, understand how they work, be able to actually get them to market and be super successful, because they're the ones driving the mission. They're the ones that are passionate about whatever they're talking about. And I want that to win.
I love it.
There's, I'll say a lot of people care about the VR or XR space, but you're just next level.
Yeah.
It's like literally wanting everybody to win. I want to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to follow their vision and come. It's like, it's a rare person that really, really does want everyone to, and you got to eat too. So that's important to.
And if I remember correctly,
that's a hard balance right there. Yeah. It's then we have to actually charge people for some stuff, but we do what we can.
You guys do a lot. I remember, I don't know if it's still as popular, but the first time we talked to you, you all had that asset on the Unity store of the movement system that you all uploaded for people as well. So you guys have always kind of been innovating for the whole industry. Do you have pricing of Grokit ironed out yet, or no? Because it's still in beta. There's a lot to do still.
Yeah, there's still a lot of work to do there on figuring out pricing, because obviously in the perfect world, we would just give it all away because that'd be great. But in reality, we have to make money to get investors. So one thing, we are going to be updating the movement system, because we realize that it's a little bit out of date now with Grokit Core, because the movement system is also in Grokit Core, but it's been updated more recently. So there's going to be an update coming soon for that. And we took the AI module from Grokit Core, and we're going to be bringing that to the Unity Asset Store. So that'll work on anything. That'll work on VR, mobile, WebGL, PC, doesn't matter. It's an AI module that's the integrator piece for different AIs. So I want to have text to speech, simple one, right? Oh, but I don't want to have to code all that. Why am I coding all this? Hasn't this been coded before? Yeah, it's been coded before in Grokit Core. So what if you could just drop in a module, go get your API key and go beep, beep, stick it in there. Wow, look, I have text to speech. I'm done.
Huge. I can't wait to potentially play around with this. I can totally see all the ways it streamlines things. And I mean, geez, how big is the 3 Pound Games team these days? Who are the other people behind the scenes?
I think, I think the last time we talked, I think we were like right around 17, and we're about the same. So
wow.
we're just doing a lot. We're doing a lot. It's I would like to expand the team pretty significantly, just to kind of fill in more roles and provide more support structure, and also, give people a chance to breathe a little bit here and there, because we're for sure doing a lot of work right now. But it's strategic. We've all been in this industry a very long time, and we've seen companies get lots of money, lots of funding, explode, tank. We're not doing that. So I want to grow strategically and at a rate that we can keep up with, that we can make sure that new people coming in know what's going on, have a role, have an understanding of what their position is, and also that they're having some fun too. And it's not just, oh, you're stuck on support over there. And support is a lot of fun because you get to go fix things. But also, why'd you come work for a game company? You probably want to work on some games, right? So we want to be able to give people a variety of, like, I almost call it like a work balance in some ways, because making games is work, but it's fun work. It's rewarding work for you personally. And then, like, there's the other work, which is rewarding more in the giving back to humanity as a whole. Like, what if you're working on an XR project for a research scientist who's actually curing cancer? Whoa, wouldn't that be cool? And that's the kind of stuff that we can do with Grokit Core, because we can provide this to universities. They can be working on it in their labs. They can be trying out and just experimenting with absolute crazy stuff. And we could be part of all of those cool missions.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, hiring people is a lot of fun. Growing the team is fun, but much less fun is laying people off. And I think that's a story that we've seen too much in the gaming industry. So I think you're doing it smart. It's like, grow eventually, but grow when it's the right time. Don't just hire people because there's money to be spent. These people, they need to get consistently paid. And yeah, it's great to grow the team. Even worse though to shrink it. So again, I agree with how you all are doing it. And we were talking a little off air. You do a lot of the audio in the games as well too, on the music side. Is that correct?
That is correct. I am the audio person. Somehow I have time for that. I don't know. It's kind of my late night stuff. Like, usually, like, after all the dust has settled from the day, I go slide over to my Mac and I get a bunch of cool. There's some gear right there. Actually, that's a K2000. I don't use this. I don't use it very often. That guy, but he looked freaking cool when he lit up. I use Ableton Live. Been my go-to choice for game development music because of the way that it does scenes, and because you can set everything up. And I have a push board over here, as I switched to one of the original ones, and you can go through those scenes. So I could do is put my headset on over here on the PC side. I got Unity running, and over here with my left hand, I'm changing my scenes and going like, is it gonna work here? I could just try that out real quick. And I could slide it on over. Like, all right, let's actually implement it now. We're ready to go. So it's really fun, but also it can be challenging at times. I come from I don't know what you'd call me, heavy metal, goth rock, industrial, something. I mean, look at me, right? Like, yeah, I mean, my roots in music are exactly what you think they would be. And then you get into stuff like playing Grocket and writing songs that are appropriate for Grocket. And I have to warp my brain into this whole other space. I had my oldest child came in one day when I was working on this one song. I think it was, I know it was. It was actually the music for Chomp. Very islandy kind of vibe, right? And they said, "Oh my God, Mom, this is was it the most fun thing you've ever written, or something like that? The cutest thing you've ever written." Like thank you, appreciate that.
Different sound than they're used to.
Well, I'm wondering, like, in the creative process, is your first instinct to resort back to more of mentally the music you would have played years ago, and then you have to like slowly correct everything out of that initial, like, what I would think is instinctive. Just, I mean, play music for years.
Yeah, that was actually Space Dragon for me. So even though Space Dragon is kind of that same vein, also sometimes it's not. Sometimes there's orchestration and instruments that are things that I don't know how to play. I don't play the violin, right? I mean, sure, could I probably figure it out? Okay, yeah, but that's a lot. It's a lot to go learn the violin. Well, you can go play it poorly, but I'm not going to learn how to play the violin. What I can do is I can use phrase libraries, and I could use instrumentations that are just like, VST instruments on my board, and I can play them the same way. So what I used to do on Space Dragon, a lot of times, when I would play something in my heavy metal mental state, and I would play it with heavy, like heavy guitars. And then I would go, okay, what if we switched that to violin? Ha ha. And then you just start like sneak up on your brain because there's only 12 notes. So
Is making video music for video games harder for you than making just traditional music?
I think it was at first. And then I think it flipped. I started thinking more in modes. And, when you're writing a song, you're telling a story in the context sometimes of the eyes of the person who's singing. So a lot of times I would write things like back in my day, I write things like, hey, here's where this song's going to go. And then the next person that comes in influences where that song's going to go. So the singer comes in and starts singing a certain thing. Sometimes the song stays the same because they wrote what they wrote based on what you wrote. And sometimes they actually have changed a little bit or changed the meaning or the feeling of it a little bit. And then you start morphing a little bit so that it tightens up like that. So that's this really interesting collaboration effect that happens just in writing songs. And where does the song go next is oftentimes just directed in by how does it feel to change now? If I play this phrase for this long, are we going to run out of words there? Or does it make sense for them to just stop and shout a few times, whatever? You could do that when you're in that collaboration thing. But when you're writing stuff for video games, I had to think of things totally differently. Like, okay, the monsters are right around the corner. They're not here yet, but I should probably notify the player something's going to happen. Something happens soon, watch out. But also I don't want to alert them too much because it's not that soon. So, you have to come up with these different little pieces of what does it mean to do certain things? What does it mean when you, like Vault of Stars, when you land on that first accomplished piece in the tutorial island? It's very dark. It's very, just almost monotonous in a lot of ways, right? Because I'm almost trying to just get you, just learn the mechanics. Don't be distracted by the music. I'm just trying to get you there, like get through this, pay attention, focus is the key thing I'm trying to do in the music there. And then as soon as you drop through that portal, now it opens wide up into what is a much more magical, mystical tone. And that song right there actually just ended up in Grocket in that last update. That's the Twilight Echoes update. So that's in there now. But you can feel that moment. You're like, I did this thing and I think I know what I'm doing now. This is good. Let me go explore. That changes your whole mindset in that moment. And that's what I could do with the players. I could lock step with not only what I hope that you're feeling in this moment, but I can even drive that behavior a little bit by giving you those hints of accomplishment, by giving you those hints of what's coming up next, and that there's progression in the level, and then it all has to work with all the sound effects.
Oh, and it has to take you. I mean, we totally love a really good sound score, good music score, and it on itself should be able, even if you closed your eyes, you should still be taken on some sort of journey based on that music. And like you said, letting the player know we're all accustomed to like certain sounds that deviate, that go, something bad's going to happen. I can feel it. I can hear it.
I feel like the best music soundtracks and games are ones that you don't notice, but you notice the feel that they give you.
The feeling they give you.
If the soundtrack is so good, it takes you out of the game or the experience.
Cats in the Cradle, man, been making people cry for 50 years. It's like music is impactful.
We've talked with Lucas
it's
more.
Internalizing. Yeah.
Yeah, you never want it to be too dominant of the focus.
You don't want to be whistling it during the day.
But you need it to enhance the experience. So I love it.
Which is weird because from a rock background, you'd want people whistling your song every day and having it stuck in your head so you don't forget it. So it's
quite a big conflict. But I always love having Robin on, talk the latest and greatest in 3 pound games. I think she would do with like a yearly check-in with her.
Minimally, we have to, because there's very few human being that like to keep their calendar as full as. So I want to touch base again on the rock and roll career. Was there any part of you in those years that had this vision of where you are today? Like any piece of it at any point in your earlier career going, someday I'm going to help revolutionize the virtual reality space and do amazing things for freaking anybody who wants to be
Yeah,
involved.
I mean, it's weird, right? Because you like watch a Disney movie and, yeah, and not that I'm into Disney movies particularly, but the concept is always there that no matter what you're doing in life, you're building and you're building the next thing, but you don't always know that you are. So, by making those choices, by you opting into certain areas of technology or leaning into skills, you are building the ramp to where you're going to go. So when I was a little kid and I'm tearing apart electronics my whole life and not knowing that that was weird, I thought that was totally normal. Doesn't every kid walk around with a screwdriver and terrorize their electronics? That's what I thought. Programming when I was young and programming games when I was very young, I was super into that. And I thought when I was a kid that, I thought, first of all, I thought I would be a veterinarian because I love animals, right? That's great. And then I thought, okay, well, I'm probably going to be some kind of developer. For sure, I'm going to be an engineer because look at me with electronics. This is what I do. I'm an electronics nerd. And programming wasn't really a job that people did quite yet, but I did programming. So that seemed weird, right? It wasn't really there was no computer science degree when I was a little kid. There was only engineering. So when I grew up and became an engineer first, then I'm like, oh, I should get back to music a little bit because I always did music and music's another one of those things. I didn't think this was weird. I thought everybody played music. I thought everybody wrote music. I never even considered the possibility that that was weird or odd or different. And so then in college, I started noodling around a little bit, getting back into music a little bit. And then when I got out of college, that's when I really leaned into it. So I took my first real engineering job with Motorola down in Plantation, Florida. And this was like the dream job, you guys. It was like microcontroller development. How cool is that? That's amazing. I get to have a little double EEPROM programmer, a little thing under my desk. It was so amazing. And then you also realize now you're kind of in corporate life and whatever you do for that job, you're going to do endlessly. So that became a loop for me. And whenever I hear loops, it's time to make a new line. And the new line was to bring music back in. I started playing in bands. I started just exploring around the instruments because even at that moment, I didn't really play bass. Like when I was more of a piano player, more of a trumpet player. I could play a lot of instruments just pretty quickly. I can pick them up, but it would always be more like horned instruments or piano type keyboard, that sort of thing. And somewhere along the line, I picked up the bass and I'm like, this is the stuff right here. This is cool. A lot of fun because it seems like a really easy instrument to play, but it's really hard to master. So that made it interesting to me because you could really fine tune in on the details of that and also really push the boundaries of how it is you're playing the instrument. And like I did a lot of chords, a lot of complex patterns when I would play bass. So that led to a lot of amazing stuff too. I was endorsed by Ibanez. I'm in the catalog.
No freaking way. Ibanez is a great brand.
I love Ibanez. That's these guys.
way.
These guys are right here. Actually, both of these are the Ibanez, and this one here, that one, it's got sort of a red auburn tone about it. At the time when I was endorsed by them, they matched this to my hair color, which I was like, okay, that's really cool.
That's freaking. Were you a finger bass player or a pick player?
Yeah, I play with a pick because I'm left-handed. I think this is why. I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm left-handed and I play right-handed, Paul McCartney. So I guess he flips it other way, flips it around. But there's a lot of people that do this because it's hard to find left-handed basses. And then also it feels weird to play left-handed bass for me. It feels better to have the hand I'm very dexterous on to be up here on the fretboard and this hand to do something like that. So if you take your non-dominant hand and try to slap with it, you'll notice you're probably not very good at it, but you can do it with your dominant hand much better. So it's this rotational axis of your wrist thing. And that's problematic when you're trying to play something like bass. So even though I'm not in the kind of band that you would ever slap with, the fact that you can't do that rotational movement particularly quickly when you're doing metal alternative becomes a blocker, and it necessitates the pick. But then the pick opens up this whole world of cool stuff, scraping along the, like all this cool stuff you can do with a pick, and just getting that like, ching, 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 ching. Love that sound. Love to be able to get all that nuance in there. So that's kind of why I ended up as a pick player specifically. I have never left that. I love playing with the pick more than anything because it's just fun.
Yeah,
fun to rip through it.
It's its own unique sound compared to the strictly finger playing, like John Entwistle, Thunder Fingers. No, bass is an awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, bass is an awesome instrument. I can still hold my own in it. I'm just not. It's not my instrument of go-to, but an absolutely awesome instrument. All right, I'm good with it. It should be noted your band was aggressive too, so it wasn't like you were an orchestra band.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. I mean, this is the day too, right? As we're out there. There's not a lot of women doing stuff, and we didn't intend to be an all-female band. We didn't end up an all-female band either. It was one of these situations where I met the singer and the drummer. They were playing with a bunch of guys, and they were all just off noodling around, no form. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind jamming with you two, but these guys, no, because they're not. There's no focus. There's no focus at all about like, let's build a band. Let's do this right. So then suddenly we're 3 people now forming a band that are all female, and we're like, well, we could go all the way with it. So for sure it was not intended, but then having done that made it really kind of interesting too, because it was always such a like in your face moment. Because people weren't expecting it, and people were shocked by everything that we were doing. And of course, we're intentionally doing things to shock people because that's what you do. It's how you get people to listen to your music.
You were actually ahead of your time, I would believe, because even doing that today would work perfect,
Mm-hmm.
But now you're doing it back then when technology was a lot different, but no, your musical career is no joke. It shouldn't be taken lightly by anyone.
No, not at all. So like I was saying before, I think we're due for a yearly check-in with Robin, to say the least, especially with her schedule.
But man,
before we wrap it up, do you want to let the listeners know where the best place to stay up to date with news for 3 Pound Games is, whether that's social media, Discord, and how they can find that?
I mean, all of the above. We do have a newsletter that goes out every month, so you can sign up for the newsletter on the website. We do have a Discord channel for 3 Pound. We also have a Discord for Grokit Core. We have a sign up on 3 Pound XR for Grokit Core. We can give you all those links to put in the comments. I mean, just connect with us. I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I'm on Facebook a fair amount because, Meta. I was not a fan of Facebook as a social media platform, but now it seems totally different. Now it's like all the VR kids are there. So it's like, oh, okay, this is nice. I like this.
I'm always biased towards the VR scene on Twitter. It's always a pop in place. But although LinkedIn, LinkedIn's grown on me a lot.
I like LinkedIn.
But that I don't like to pop the secret on that either. That's like the
keep it clean.
Yeah. The industry hangout place.
Yeah, they all have their channels. Like for sure we post, like everyone else, we post the more professional stuff on LinkedIn, and Twitter's a little more about like, ooh, crazy stuff happening right now. Like, stay on the beat right now. And then Facebook has a little more of a like, here's all this cool stuff we're working on. Yeah.
Cool shit.
Each one has its purpose.
Yeah. So thank you again, though, Robin, for joining us today. I know you're a busy woman, to say the least. You're a little bit of everywhere.
It's putting it lightly.
Hopefully one day we bump into you at one of these conferences as well.
The paths will cross.
You know what? I think
suspect
AWE.
I'm going to be seeing you guys this fall. I'm pretty sure I'm going to see you in the fall.
Yeah. Hopefully that's the goal. If we can make it out somewhere, that you are, that's the goal. There's enough things going on that I think that the paths will cross. But Robin, thank you again for joining us today. To the listeners, go check out Grocket. if you're into potentially making games as well, check out Grokit. That sounds like a lot of potential there.
Unlock that imagination.
And I cannot wait to see what else is in the works in this next year from
I like that. I might
Pounds
steal
Games.
that line. Unlock that imagination. Just
Unlock
can't
that
say
imagination. Grokit.
You see the little TM in the top right.
Like, that was quick.
So thank you, everyone. Again, go check out Grocket. If you like it, go check out Space Dragon Unchained. Check out Vault of Stars. There are other games as well. Great games.
Totally recommend it.
Rate them 5 stars on the store. That helps developers so much. And if you enjoy the show, hell, subscribe, rate us 5 stars as well. I won't complain.
We won't get upset.
No, not at all. And other than that, we'll check you guys out next week. Ciao, ciao.
Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.